Spider Nation, welcome back to another episode of Spider-Man's Tangled WebShow. I'm Jonathan, webmaster of SpiderManFanRave.com, SpiderManFanRave.com. Go on over there, we got some cool Spider-Man stuff. Anything you want, you can find over there. If you're looking to celebrate the character, if you're looking to have a good time with the character, we can help you do that. So go on over, SpiderManFanRave.com. Tonight I'm being joined by James. What's going on, James? This is awkward. Did James freeze already? This is very awkward. Oh, wonderful. That's great. So I guess James is already frozen, so we don't really have anything for him to say right now. So I guess we'll get on to what I've been up to this week. What have I been up to this week? Well, it's week 14 of college. It was Thanksgiving week. It was Black Friday, which I did not participate in. I'm not really a big shopping person. I'm not really a big fan of Black Friday, so I did not go out shopping. Had thanks. I had thanks. Yeah, sorry, James, you cut out there. That was a great way to start the podcast.
Wait, how did I cut out? Because literally I was here the whole time going, what are you talking about, John? John, I'm here. John?
I don't know. Maybe I was talking to a blank screen, but literally I did not hear you or see you.
That's weird.
All right, well, James, what have you been up to this week, man?
Okay, just repeating what I said before. Just been celebrating, Thanksgiving. It was okay. The turkey was great. Putting up the Christmas tree, all that fun stuff. But then the Packers lost, and that kind of dampened the mood. I mean, it was Favre Day.
Yes, I heard that Brett Favre was. Yeah, I heard some stuff about Brett Favre from that game.
I mean, I don't know if you can see it because of how, my phone is, how it doesn't really have a good light on it. But I'm wearing a Brett Favre jersey because for the first time since he left for Minnesota. I even put up my Brett Favre autograph picture and bobblehead up again. It was a day of Favre-giveness, and we couldn't win the game, and I'm so depressed about it. Yes, that's a term Packer fans were actually using for the game, for the retirement. It was a day of Favre-giveness because we love punts here in Wisconsin.
Here in Northeast Ohio, we got some good news today. OSU managed to basically destroy Michigan today.
I watched that. That was a good game, I gotta say.
Yeah, we received some good news, us Buckeye fans up here.
And Wisconsin beat Minnesota, so status quo. Because literally last time Minnesota won, I was like in the 5th grade, I want to say. No shots to fans from Minnesota. But I'm just saying, Packers' only win in the last month was against your football team, and then this year University of Wisconsin kicked University of Minnesota's ass. So, just saying.
All right, but as we move along here, we will talk about one very specific news topic that is not completely Spider-Man related, but he is in the movie. He's just not in the trailer. Captain America: Civil War.
He's the Luke Skywalker. Like how Luke Skywalker was in none of the Star Wars trailers, Peter Parker so far is the Luke Skywalker of this trailer you're talking about.
Yes, Peter Parker was not in the Captain America trailer, but he's in the movie. So by association, it involves Spider-Man. So that is how I am getting around my own rules, because I want to talk about this trailer so badly. I'm just going to start this off right now. That's a good trailer. That is a good trailer, I gotta say right now. Sorry,
I was coughing. That wasn't me making fun of the movie or making fun of you. That was a cough.
Oh, James, just go ahead. What were you gonna say about the trailer?
Nothing. Like, legit, that was a cough. I wasn't gonna, smart ass or anything.
I was just gonna say, I love this trailer. I am pumped for this movie now because, well, damn, frankly, I gotta say that was the trailer that they needed to air. And James had been telling me that we were not getting Captain America trailer until Star Wars. James, how does it feel to be wrong?
This is also in a day and age we're going back to Star Wars, where they told people that for the first Star Wars trailer, hey, it was going to be exclusively in theaters and then like a day, and then like a couple hours after the first showings is when it's gonna pop online. Only for LOL. Guess what? It leaked online by us an hour beforehand. So this is Disney. They've been known to say one thing to get you to buy the movie ticket, and then 2 weeks later, drop the trailer on you.
Yes, but I was thankful that we got this trailer early. It was, I'll take it as my Thanksgiving present, and I was thankful for it on Thanksgiving. Um, I just got to say, I'll run down some things I enjoy. Well, actually, first, James, what are your general thoughts on the trailer? I'm taking up all the airspace here.
It was good. I'll say that it was good. I want to say I had a lot of expectations of what we might see in the trailer. That when we got it, it was almost like okay, that was it. Like it seemed very small, maybe because I read Civil War the comic, so you knew how big and vast it was. And here it was almost like, yeah, everybody you saw at the end of the Avengers. Well, now it's Avengers 3 and they're fighting each other, just with Captain America in the title instead. That's what it kind of felt like to me. But other than that, there's some moments in that trailer I absolutely love. I love the line where Cap says, "I'm doing this for my friend." He goes, I'm doing it because he's my best friend. And then Iron Man says, I once was. That part gave me chills.
Dude, okay. I was not emotionally prepared for that moment. They should have put like a viewer discretion advised thing before that trailer because, damn, right in the heart was that moment. And that was all on Robert Downey Jr. because he did a fantastic job with that.
My only kind of confusion is that we were told that the reason why the Ant-Man scene was in there in the end credits is because it was a deleted scene. Now there's a longer version of it in the trailer, at least, kind of, where you get a little bit more where it's like, do you remember who you are? Yeah, I'm Bucky, and you were my best friend, blah, blah, blah. And he says, do you remember where you were born, and all that stuff? So that makes me think, now, was it really a deleted scene, or was that just, hey, we'll put the scene in here, and then here's the longer, full version in the main movie? Now I'm starting to think that was it all along. Because it's kind of weird how that's the first thing you see in the trailer is the Ant-Man end credit scene that we were told that was a deleted scene.
They've come out and said some different things about that. They actually said, I believe a quote from the directors was that we would see that particular scene from the end of Ant-Man, but from a different angle, or we'd see it in a different way. So maybe that's what they were talking about when they were mentioning that. But I gotta say, I thought that a lot of stuff in this trailer was really, really good. One thing I did kind of just like chuckle at a bit was that Thunderbolt Ross from The Incredible Hulk is in this movie, but the Hulk isn't, which is really funny to me. And when you read the director's commentary that Anthony and Joe Russo gave out after the trailer was released, they said, oh yeah, we didn't really want the Hulk movie to be forgotten in this universe. But the Hulk is not in this movie, so
I felt bad. I felt bad for it because Mark Ruffalo's a great guy and he's from Kenosha, Wisconsin, my hometown. So it was like that was one of the good things about in this town is when you saw Avengers, both of them. It was like, yeah, the Hulk, he's from here. We're sitting in a theater. The Hulk grew up in the same city that we're seeing this movie in. Now I can't say that. Like, Spider-Man's teaming up with a guy from my hometown. That's awesome. I can't say that now. It sucks.
I mean, no disrespect to Mark Ruffalo because he does a fantastic job with Bruce Banner and the Hulk, but it's just like, it's weird to have a Hulk-centric character, but the Hulk is not in the film. It's just
which leads me to believe because at first I thought for sure, okay, Hulk's in it and Thunderbolt Ross, he's going to be Red Hulk. Now I don't think they're not going to touch that with a 50-foot pole. I don't think because I don't think they want to touch any Hulk things besides for the big green guy and Ross. Because of the movie rights, how it's kind of like a weirder version of the Sony deal. It sounds like.
Yeah, Universal actually has the rights to make solo Hulk films, but Marvel can use him in the Avengers, and evidently Thor 3.
Yeah, it's weird. It's like almost kind of like with similar thing with Spider-Man. In the case of Spider-Man, was told, hey, you can use our characters in the new Sony movies because they're just all going to tie in the same universe. We can use them whenever we want for the movies. But, don't expect him and Daredevil teaming up with Daredevil against Kingpin in an episode because the TV rights are still with Sony. And now Ross, you can't use anything from Hulk unless it's a solo movie.
Yeah, so that is unfortunate, but Favorite moments from the trailer, like James mentioned, the Tony Stark, so was I moment. That was tough. And I gotta say, I want to give credit to I forget who it was that tweeted it out, but someone put a GIF of the image where Steve Rogers and Bucky Barnes, really, they're not fighting Tony Stark. They're just beating on him because Tony.
That's my favorite part of the trailer. That's my favorite part is where they're tag teaming on him and they're even passing the shield back and forth to hit him.
Yeah, and someone on Twitter put a GIF of that image and said, Steve and Bucky were just trying to play Frisbee, but Tony kept getting in the damn way. I thought that was funny. I laughed at that.
I gotta say another really cool thing I loved, just absolutely loved, is about that scene with the So Was I. Because, to be fair, in the 2 times we've seen them together in Avenger movies, they have always been kind of at odds and arguing, and not really. They've been like respectful and kind of friends because they're on the same team, but you never got the sense that they were BFF Facebook friends. Like, I have to go over to Tony's house. Steve ever saying that, But when he says the So Was I got immediate chills to me being, 16, 17, however old I was when Civil War happened, and you're reading these 2 guys going at it, guns a-blazing. I felt like that was comic Tony coming out there, and that was awesome.
Yeah, let's think about Steve Rogers and Tony Stark here. In the first Avengers film, Steve Rogers literally said to his face, "Put on the suit, let's go a few rounds, because I want to beat the crap out of you."
I think they were teasing Civil War. Then they knew exactly what they were teasing, because granted these characters have fought before in comics, but when they said the line, they knew that every fan, because people will remember newer stuff obviously more than they remember like an old issue back in the 60s where maybe they fought because they were under mind control or whatever. People immediately, when you have that line, they're thinking Civil War. So now that actually, it's not like, we're not just teasing it, you're getting it.
Yeah, and then you have Age of Ultron, where right before the Vision pops out, you have Tony Stark shooting at Steve Rogers, and Steve Rogers legitimately swinging on him and ready to take this guy out.
Like I said, remember I told you last year, when I was walking out of that, well, not last year, but last summer when the movie came out, when I was walking out of the theater, there was a couple where, I can't remember exactly who it was. It was the guy or the girl who was saying which, but like the guy was saying, God, Tony Stark's an ass. He's more like a supervillain. Why is he on these superhero teams? He's always invents something and it goes wrong. He's more of a villain. What the hell's going on? And then the girl was kind of more, no, I agree with him. You got to have these things to try to protect the world because of all the shit's going on. Steve's kind of in the wrong because he's still in the old school 40s point of view of, well, the army and the might and just human might can overcome anything. Where Tony's more technology, and it makes sense. He more technological, it makes us better. And I walked past him and I said, well, then whose side are you on? Knowing that Civil War was a year later.
Yeah. And then you have Sam Wilson in this trailer, played by Anthony Mackie, delivered one of my favorite lines of the trailer and said, I just want to make sure we consider all our options, because the people that shoot at you usually wind up shooting at me too. And I don't know why, but it's just like, Steve Rogers, Sam Wilson, love that friendship, and I don't know why. It's just, and seeing the two of them together in sunglasses and hats it's like, to be honest, no one should be fooled by that, but evidently they are, because
my only gripe is a part of the trailer makes me think that the movie's going to end with Cap dying. It's like comic. Cap's going to die and Bucky's going to take over. He's going to grab the shield at the end of the movie and go, I am the new Captain America or whatever. And why I think that is because the whole plot seems to be, Steve, like, he's my friend. He's my friend. I got to save him. I got to make sure that you and the Restoration Act doesn't arrest him. I'm pretending the government not because I'm protecting superheroes with masks, but I'm doing it because I want to protect my friend. I got a feeling it's going to end with, him dying. And then the last kind of like shot back is going to be, not only am I dead, but in my will and everything, guess who I'm giving all my Captain America crap on and saying is the new Captain America? Bucky.
Yeah, I would be really against that if they did it, because, I know Chris Evans is contracted for both parts of Infinity War.
But in the comics, too, Steve Rogers came back, so it's always that. It's one reason why I can't get into Sam Wilson as Cap, because I know in 2-3 years, by the time the next Captain America movie comes out or whatever after this one, they're going to be promoting it with the return of Steve Rogers in the comics.
Yeah, I would not want to see Steve Rogers bite it in this movie. I would not want to see that. What I want to see is Steve Rogers basically tell the United States Congress where to shove it. I would love to see that.
Because I tell you, it's this trailer. It's like, as a guy who go back 10 years ago when Disney owned Power Rangers, I'm like, Disney can't own anything that's not a Disney property. Oh God, they're ruining Power Rangers. They don't, if it's not something Disney, the House of Mouse created, they don't give a crap about it. And now it's kind of like, no, we were just the redheaded stepchildren of the Disney franchise. So look what they're doing right now with Star Wars. Look what they're doing now with Marvel. Disney literally looks like they're going to hit the ball. They're going to hit like 4 home runs in a row. It's going to be a grand slam. They hit it with Age of Ultron this year. They hit it with Ant-Man. They're going to hit it again with Star Wars already, it looks like. And then here with this trailer, they're going to hit it a 4th time in the span of 12 months. That's 4 hit movies that aren't Disney princesses or Pixar.
Yeah, and it's I was actually just going to bring up that Inside Out Pixar movie. If you're asking me, that was a home run right there in and of itself.
But I'm talking about properties that it wasn't, created by Walt Disney or the company.
Yeah, because that Inside Out movie was damn good. I love that film. So I gotta say, it's just I'm pumped for Civil War. I'm really pumped for it. And one last thing, I'll just say, no, War Machine is not gonna die. He'll be fine. Please, people,
I don't know.
Speaking out about that.
I don't know because they are kind of. He could die. Never say never. It's a comic book movie. Never say never. He could bite the dust. Because people did die in the Civil War comic, so there's probably going to be people who are going to drop dead here too.
Oh, we know that someone is going to, but it's not going to be.
Somebody has to fill that Bill Foster, shoot. Because Bill Foster was the big death in Civil War, other than Cap in the end of it. But Cap was more of an epilogue death, where they actually in the story, Bill Foster died, and it's always like that. Wasp died during Secret Invasion. You had, characters dying during House of M. This is always the Marvel's kind of thing, and even DC's thing is you got to have at least one big death in these crossovers to make it meaningful or whatever. So yeah, I could see him dying, but don't count it. I think it's just there because he's the parallel to Bucky. He is the quote-unquote sidekick of Iron Man, his best friend.
Yeah, because you do have that shot of Tony Stark, over Rhodey like that, and I would be kind of surprised if they did that, but I mean, I really don't think I think Rhodey's going to be fine. Who do I think is going to bite it in this movie? Well, I don't want anyone to bite it, really. I like all these characters too much.
So, the one thing I would like for this movie to do, but I don't know how it would tie, if it would be too out there, but another great way to promote the Spider-Man movie and to solve kind of a continuity error with Avengers 2, with Age of Ultron, with Iron Man 3, and it could be a really great way to do it, and you can also use to promote the Spider-Man movie, is if you have Rhodes make a comment with the government saying, I'm still pissed that you took away my suit and sold it back to Oscorp.
Yeah, because they never explained why he went back to War Machine.
If you explain it as they used frickin' like Oscorp was the company, they used Stark. I remember from Iron Man 3, it was like they used Stark, Industries shit to make it.
No, they used AIM.
What? They use AIM, yeah. But if they explained that the parts came from Oscorp and after all the shit went down with AIM, that Norman said, yeah, I want my crap back, that's brilliant, because then you tie in the comic book element of, Norman being the Iron Patriot. Now you got a way to connect him back to it. Oh, yeah, and by just dropping the name, you sold it back to Oscorp, or Oscorp bought the rights to it or whatever. Boom, there you go.
Yeah,
There's a reference to Oscorp, and you're setting him up already for the new Spider-Man movie.
And plus, it's like, the first time they name drop anything Spider-Man in this movie, people are going to lose their shit. I mean, that's going to happen.
Like, it could be something as simple as Peter saying, "I got a hot date tonight with a cute redhead next door," and the fans will immediately know who he's talking about, and they're going to pop for it.
Oh,
or
dude, fans will go nuts.
Watch the old comics where Peter goes, we're Cap or whoever side he's on, saying, "Well, sorry, Peter, we had to pull you away. You're probably at home." Or he goes, "No, this couldn't come at the best time. My aunt tried to set me up with the neighbor girl." And the fans will know it's referencing, him hot, trying to dodge it, Mary Jane in those early Ditko issues because of the blind date. the crowd is going to go nuts because they know what they're referring to there. Like if they do something like that with the character where they make at least references to the rest of the Spider-Man world, say, it's not just me appearing here one time, but no, my whole world is also part of this world. Brilliant.
Yeah, to be honest, to get on, we will move into the Spider-Man aspect of this a little bit. To be honest with you, I would prefer Mary Jane be kind of like the girl who he's been friends with for his entire childhood, but always been secretly in love with. And that sort of builds throughout a couple movies.
Kind of going like the Ultimate route?
Kinda, yeah. That's what I would like to see.
It's kind of weird because Marvel is been since it's not a conspiracy theory. They've been trying to push Peter away from Mary Jane because they know that if they put them together in the comics, people are going to be clamoring them back together, and Marvel doesn't want that. They've outright said that. So that's one reason why I'm kind of worried about Mary Jane if they use her in the movies, because it almost feels like, well, what if Marvel says you can't use her because we want to still promote Peter without her in the comics and stuff like that, and but we put her right away in the movies, and we feel like we're almost obligated to do it in the comics or whatever.
Well,
so that's why. But at the same time, would they go right back to Gwen? Would they have him date Betty because it's the high school years? Would they throw Carly in there as like the science girl or whatever? Like, what would they do then if they're not going to put Mary Jane?
The Marvel Creative Committee that was part of the connection between the comics and the movies, that committee's collapsed. So Kevin Feige reports to Bob Iger now. So I
think Marvel still says a kind of a say in it because it is their property. He can't just 1 minute say, okay, it's my movie with Geiger, and we're going to kill off everybody, and then we're going to create new superheroes that are our own. They can't do stuff like that. I think there's still going to be some like Marvel overhead that's going to say, or Disney overhead is going to say, no, you can't do that. Where I could see maybe they might jump in and say, well, maybe are we sure we want to use Mary Jane here? Whatever. Because that's the one big thing is who's going to be the villain, who's going to be the girlfriend. Because obviously the two big ones that you're going to pick are probably Gwen and MJ. But then it's like, okay, well, will you go right back to Gwen after the Mark Webb series, or are you going to go back to Mary Jane?
No, I'm sorry. No, you won't. You will not go back to Gwen because everyone will say, oh, man, she wasn't as good as Emma Stone, because that's what's going to happen. And if they really are trying to separate themselves from the ASM series, like a lot of people say they are, they're not going to do that, because that's probably the worst thing they could do.
Yeah, I that's what I mean. Like, I don't see them going right back to Gwen because they're not going to go right back to Mary. I mean, like it'll be like if Webb went right back to Mary Jane after the Raimi series. So Spider-Man, you can do that. He's not like he has a Lois Lane. He did have a Gwen. He did have that other girl kind of. He even has like a third girl if you want to count Felicia as that, and a fourth girl is Betty, and then a fifth girl is Carly, or so on and so on. And Deb Whitman, he has other girlfriends over the years that Spider-Man fans at least know about.
Let's have him date Amy Powell.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like Batman where it's like, he has a new girlfriend every like a Bond girl, so he can get away with it. Spider-Man has had some girlfriends that have been, in other media and stuff like that, like Deb Whitman, where people from the anime series will remember her. But the big thing that I think is going to go on if it does go for the girlfriend route, I think it's going to be Mary Jane, and if it's not, they're going to have it be Betty. It's going to be like a high school version of Betty where she's a female reporter for like the school paper or whatever.
That could be cool. I could see that working.
Like, that's the only thing. If it's not MJ, it's Betty. And if it's not Betty, then and MJ, it's going to be Gwen again. And I just don't see them doing it. Not at least in the first movie. Save Gwen for like a sequel, kind of like what they did with Ultimate, how she came in like the second or third arc. They're going to pull that with Gwen. You're going to have MJ as the girl in the first movie, and then you add Gwen to spice it up a little bit for that way. It's kind of like the love triangle,
Yeah, I'd kind of hope that if they were going to go that route, I hope they don't make Gwen into a rocker chick, because that was not my cup of tea in Ultimate. That was not
I'm not saying, like, do kind of like with Spider-Man 3, kind of, how they wanted to go kind of into classic Gwen, kind of a little bit, with a little bit of Mary Jane's modeling thrown in there. But, kind of go like that. Like, if they do that where they make Mary Jane, a better version, like Kirsten Dunst's version of her, and then you throw Gwen in, who's like the comic book, Ramita, perfect, beautiful blonde bombshell. And then it's kind of like Peter is, attractive, but then you find out she is also smart, kind of like the, Mark Webb series. Now Gwen is in the comic. How she even says in, not the issues we're reviewing here, but around the same time, she says, don't forget your little blonde buddy is also a science major too. Where she shows I'm not just a, pretty face here, but I'm also smart. and you can add the drama there where it's almost like, yeah, she's perfect for Peter compared to Mary Jane. You can do it, knock it out of the park, I think. The love triangle, that classic, MJ Gwen love triangle. I think it can definitely work in a movie better than it did in Spider-Man 3.
All right, but we'll move off of the trailer and the MCU Spidey stuff. We'll just give some final thoughts. I will say I'm excited for Civil War. I'm excited to see Steve Rogers and Tony Stark really just beat the crap out of each other from the looks of the trailer.
All right. Okay, there's a Star Wars show I like to watch, Collider Jedi Council, and you should check it out. I don't really kind of agree with them sometimes when they trash the prequels, because I am a prequel fan, and I do kind of get annoyed when people like constantly trash the prequels every 5 seconds. So they got kind of like that thing that kind of gets on, grinds my gears a little bit. But it's everything else. It's a really great Star Wars show, and I never miss an episode. And they have this kind of thing where they do like percentage-wise, how much you think this character is related to Luke Skywalker in the movie. Percentage-wise, how much you think we're going to see this guy in a later movie. How much you think this character is going to be alive at the end of the movie. Let's do this right here. Percentage-wise, for the trailer, what do you think are the chances, or percentage-wise, like 50, 70, whatever, that we're going to see Peter Parker in a trailer or something before the movie comes out, or are they going to save it for when you actually go see the theater the first time you see Peter in the suit?
I saw this on an article. I forget where it was. I'm sorry, but someone said it, where it's probably going to be like the Vision was for Age of Ultron. They will put him in minimal advertising, and they will save most of his debut for the actual film. They'll maybe put him on a poster, or maybe like, how sometimes right at the end of a trailer they'll just give you like a sneak peek of something. Like right at the end, like a stinger. That's probably what they'll do. So if I had to
like
put that in,
second of webbing at something on a wall or something like that.
Yeah, or maybe just like a quick flash of the mask or something. So
or probably, Peter Parker taking, or even like you said, a quick flash. All of a sudden you just see, him as himself as Peter Parker taking like a photo or something. That's the flash.
Yeah, so that's probably what it's going to be. So to go along with your percentage thing, 15%.
It's like I said, because Disney have been known to do it. They can do the Marvel thing where it's like we'll save them, like you said, for like the last trailer and have it be very minimum. Or they can go back on the Star Wars thing. They could be like Luke, where he's not in anything. They could like say, hey, he's in the movie. We don't got to promote it. You saw the Sony deal happen. Everybody in America saw it. So in the world saw it. I mean, he's in this movie. We don't got to promote it, kind of thing. But at the same time, I think they will pull. That's all. I'll say 50. There's a 50-50 chance they could either take what the Star Wars thing is doing and not show it, but at the same time they could be just like, hey, this is Marvel, it's our own thing. We're gonna save it. Like the last shot of the last trailer is, him ripping off the shirt, like kind of like Superman style, but here's the spider webbing and the classic black logo underneath.
All right, so moving off of the Captain America Civil War trailer, which is very good, by the way. I just want to stress that again because I loved it. We will
talk 15 minutes about it.
All right, we will move on to some classic comics this week. Once again, we do not have a current issue of Amazing Spider-Man to review. We won't have any Amazing Spider-Man until 2 weeks from now. But next week, we will actually have something that James will love talking about, and that is Iron Man with Mary Jane Watson in it. So James will love talking about that next week. But we're not.
Like I said months ago, it depends on what happens in the story. If it ends with them two in bed, I'm done. If it does turn out to be a case of which I think it is now, where either A, he thinks he's her sister, or it just happens she's a new employee for whatever reason, of Stark Industries, or for whatever reason whatsoever, I'll be okay with it. But if it ends with them in bed, that's where I'm going to say I'm done and I'm never reading another issue of Iron Man. Which is sad to say when he's my second favorite character.
All right, we will go on to some classic comics. Tonight we're going to be handling the Stan Lee, John Romita Sr. Kingpin Brainwasher story arc, which is Amazing Spider-Man 59, 60, and 61. This is a three-part story, and it takes place just after the pretty famous Spider-Man Has Amnesia era story where Spider-Man had lost his memory in a fight with Dr. Octopus and briefly joined up with the infamous supervillain and committed some heists with him, only to regain his memory a few issues later. But before doing so, he started to realize, wait a minute, this is wrong. I don't want to do what Dr. Octopus does. And so the amnesiac Spider-Man actually departs Dr. Octopus's ranks and skips around town for about an issue or so before regaining his memory. And then in issue number 58, after he's regained his memory fully, he fights a Spider Slayer, and that whole debacle happens. And that's where we come to issue 59, where Spider-Man really starts to re-enter his civilian life as Peter Parker and try to tie up the loose ends that were left by his amnesia. So running down the creative team of Amazing Spider-Man number 59, we have produced by Stan the Man Lee and Johnny Ringadang Ramita, enchantment by Don Heck, embellishment by Mikey Dimio. I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing that wrong. Lettering by Artie Simic, and Peter's Wardrobe, Forbush Fashions Incorporated. Whatever.
So running gag that Stan had in a lot of books in the Silver Age.
Yeah. So, James, we're going to let you take the recap of Amazing Spider-Man number 59. What happens in this issue, sir?
Well, what happens in this issue is Spider-Man is with a brainwasher, and you're going to be really surprised by the time, if you've never read this issue before, spoiler alerts, because who the brainwasher is, it's Kingpin. It's going to completely shock you. It's Kingpin. You are not going to see it coming. It's Kingpin.
It's the biggest shock of the century.
It's Wilson Fisk. It was like my reviews of if anyone doesn't know what that is, that was like a joke I did on message boards when Daredevil was airing on Netflix, and I was going episode by episode, and I was like, okay, I don't want to spoil anything, and like my spoiler takes, like, and then the big bad guy who isn't really revealed yet, and you would click on it, my little spoiler thing to reveal it, it says it's Kingpin. So that's like my little joke to myself, callback, running joke. Anyways, the issue begins with Peter, cops are after him like normal. It's Spider-Man because they still think he's working for Doc Ock. He's all like, dude, what the hell's going on here? I gotta get away. I gotta go. And then he remembers, oh yeah, Aunt May's in the hospital because she's been like having 1,000 heart attacks in like the last few weeks. It's, I gotta go visit Aunt May in the hospital because she's not home. I know that's where she's at, kind of thing. The doctor still says, the whole thing he kind of been saying since Romita's era began, which is, your aunt can have no excitement because the next thing will kill her. Until, the next thing happens to her. And it's like, your aunt can't have no more excitement after this, Peter. It will kill her.
Then, after you continue to say that so many times and nothing happens, you kind of start to lose credibility a little bit.
Yeah, but to be fair, Aunt May has died before and come back, so he's probably right technically half the time.
But, James, it was a genetically altered actress. Don't you remember that? It was Norman Osborn's greatest scheme ever.
Another Spider-Man podcast have brought this up over the years, but I will too. And what insurance company would even touch the Parkers? After all the crap between Spider-Man, Peter getting injured as Spider-Man, to Aunt May, to Uncle Ben, the homes getting burned down, some of the insurance companies would be like, no, I'm not touching you guys with a 50-foot pole. I mean, you had family members constantly come back from the dead, people getting murdered, your house is being burned down, you're having a heart attack every week, your nephew ends up with a broken arm every other month that somehow heals back in like a week. But anyways, yeah, as they're there, the doctor's talking about the excitement. He brings up, hey, Peter, you've been missing for a few days. Maybe you should go tell everybody where the hell you are. And Peter's like, hey, great idea. Why didn't I think of that? Seriously, Peter, why didn't you think of that? So he goes to the police station because obviously he can clear Spider-Man's name by coming in as a missing person. And he's like, hey, I'm Peter Parker. And like, Peter Parker, Spider-Man finally released you? And he's taken an interrogation room. And then all the cops are asking, what is he like? Did he reveal his secret identity? What was their evil master plan? Why haven't they striked again together? And then Peter, while he's thinking about this, it's all like, well, okay, I got to think of something. Okay, what do I say? And he goes, oh, Spider-Man. He basically tells kind of half-truth. Spider-Man had amnesia. Then he remembered who he was, and he's a good guy. He beat Doc Ock, and now I'm free to go. Technically, I'm not lying here, and I love that, how it's like a half-truth. Like, he's not lying. Spider-Man did have amnesia. He gained it back. He beat Doc Ock, and Peter's free to go. He's not lying. And then, the other ones are still hounding him about, what's going on, everything. All of a sudden there's a kind, genuinely old man smoking a pipe who's kind of like, I told you to protect her, Peter. Oh, wait, sorry, wrong continuity. Or wrong, later future event. Whatever way you want to look at it, it's Captain Stacy.
The ghost of Christmas Leary.
Like, I realized I did that whole Peter, you should protected her, but he says that same goddamn thing in the comics, so now I gotta clarify it. Yeah, I'm making it an other universe joke, but at the same time, yeah, it happened in the comics.
Yeah, I will give credit right now. That Ghost of Christmas Leary thing is not my joke. I stole that from the internet.
Yeah, but it's Captain Stacy, and Peter's like, hey, Captain Stacy, I know, he's Gwen's father. And, he's all like, he continues telling the story, and then he's free to go because they have no reason not to believe him. So they're like, okay, well, we'll take your word for it. Here, just sign a few release forms, and you're free to go. And then Captain Stacy's like, hold on a minute. You said you were with Spider-Man? I want to take you to my house. So he's kind of like, being like any guy who, has a hot for a girl or dating her. You're nervous because you're meeting your girlfriend's parents. And he's a cop with a gun.
If you're not nervous there, you're doing something wrong.
And, oh yeah, you got a secret identity of a known vigilante, and he's inviting you over to the house to talk about the known vigilante.
If you're not having a panic attack there, you're doing something wrong.
If he's not in the bed right next to Aunt May for a heart attack, there's something wrong with him.
Yep.
Anyways, yeah, he goes, here, Peter, I'm going to show you some slideshows of my trip to Vermont. And then after that, we're going to look at slides of the Daily Bugle that you took of Spider-Man so I can ask you questions about him. Okay, they're looking at slides of Spider-Man's fights, and Stacy's all like, oh, I don't think he's a bad guy, but I want to know more about him, obviously, because, technically, all that crap. And everything, and then all of a sudden, Gwen comes home and somehow she knew about Peter. Like, maybe she arrived at the police station, they said, hey, the Parker kid came back and your dad walked him home or something. But she's kind of surprised that Peter's there at the house, so I don't really know. But she's like, Dad, I just heard the news. Oh, Peter, you're here! And then another thing that any guy does not want when he's meeting the girlfriend's dad for the first time in his house, he's a cop, probably with a gun. She starts making out with him because she missed him so much. And then Peter has the reaction that every guy would have. He's like, Gwen, your dad is right there. Stop it. Stop it. Story of my life, seriously. And then he's all like kind of creepy, like, oh, don't worry. Continue making out with my daughter. I was young once. I know how it was. Wink. And then Gwen stops, and she talks about how wonderful it is to see him again because she was so worried and everybody missed him. And he goes, don't apologize, pretty lady. I missed you too, and all that Gwen and Peter crap. And then he broke up with her because he was guilty about the future death of her father, and he stalked her all the way to her favorite Thai restaurant. Oh, sorry, wrong continuity.
Man, when did Andrew Garfield show up in this comic?
Let's be honest here. I'm a big fan of Gwen and Peter's relationship in the comic, but them in the web series is better than the comic Peter and Gwen relationship when you go back and really look at it.
Oh hell yeah! Have I ever made it clear that I love the Mark Webb movies? Have I ever mentioned that?
And then they go to the coffee bean and they're all having a coffee and it's all the friends, having a jolly good old time as they talk about how great that Peter's back, but he still kind of feels the Parker luck. Story of my life right now. Literally, it's kind of spooky how some of the elements of the Ramita era kind of relate to my life. Not that I was kidnapped with amnesia, but, the whole idea of you getting together with your friends at the cafe after class and you're all goofing off and having the fun day, that's kind of like what's going on with me in my life right now. So it's kind of interesting how Peter Parker is the everyman. Then we cut to them talking about how Mary Jane's going to become a go-go dancer and she got a job and it was awesome. But little did they know that a mysterious evil man is running the club. It's the Kingpin. And he's all doing evil, mysterious thing as this henchman points out to the new girl's Mary Jane Watson. It's the Kingpin. And then we go to them talking to an evil, mysterious scientist. He's working for the Kingpin. And he's all like talking about how his boss is the brainwasher. It's the Kingpin.
Is this mysterious scientist Alistair Alfonso Smythe?
No.
That was a 90s show reference. I'm sorry. It was a poorly done 90s show reference.
I was literally for a second there thinking about how I can do the Kingpin impression right then and there, but I can't do the voice, so I just stopped myself. Anyways, then we cut to Peter. He's web swinging around the town. He's doing Spider-Man shit, stopping criminals. It's pretty much classic Spider-Man status quo. Then he remembers, oh yeah, I gotta go to Gwen's club, or MJ's club, and then MJ's, before the club opens, is dancing on the table, showing off her dance moves, and then the evil, mysterious businessman's henchman, it was the Kingpin's henchman, say, now Gwen, MJ, I want you to take photos out of this camera. don't change the film, don't change nothing. Make sure it's this camera. And she's just like, yeah, son, don't have a count, man. I will dig it, dude. And then as the club actually opens, the people come in. We see, Peter talking about how hot a blonde bombshell Gwen is, and she says, "Careful, Mr. Pete, you might start a riot because there's other women here." Blah 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 blah. And then Flash is talking about it's just like old times again. All of us hanging out. Okay, Flash saying that in a nowadays Amazing Spider-Man issue, I'll buy it. Literally, him and Peter and everybody had only been hanging out for 10 issues. What's he talking about? It's just like the good old days. That'll be like literally me and you, John, talking about something 2 weeks ago, and I come on the show. That's like the good old days. But anyways, the club's going on. All these big, people there because it's opening night, and they're all there. MJ's dancing, and they're all like talking about how she's from Fadsville and all that stuff, and 60s lingo. They're all talking about, hey, dude, peace, man, all that stuff. And then MJ's taking all the photos, and she's all having the time of her life. And then everybody complains about a migraine headache and then start to leave, and they all go into the evil, mysterious scientist's lab. And then he starts doing, shit on, evil things. He's brainwashing them and programming them to do evil deeds. Peter knows something's up, so he leaves, from the table to be excused. And then he goes look for her father, but really he's dressed up as Spider-Man. He fights the henchmen. He saves Mary Jane, who is in the middle of it, and the guy grabs her. He saves her, and then she makes a really weird comment about, oh, you're so groovy, Spider-Man. Oh, Spidey-O, do you have a brother? Which is kind of weird, knowing that now with the retcons, when you think about it. But anyways, Peter lets MJ go, and then he goes, I said out, girl. And then he's like, he sees the henchman, and he sees what's going on, but right before he can stop it, a hand comes out, and it's the Kingpin. End of the issue.
All right, James, what are you thinking of Amazing Spider-Man number 59 here?
This is a really good issue. It like I said, I got a smile on my face reading it. I love this era. I love MJ and Peter and Gwen and Flash and all them at the coffee bean. This has always been like when I first read these essentials, and I'm reading this off of now when I was in high school. It was like when I was first getting into these older issues. I really enjoyed this volume, and I really enjoyed this era. The artworks, the kind of innocence to them before the night Gwen Stacy died. There's really innocence to these issues, and I love it. And in a lot of ways, it kind of like reminds me a little bit of the animated series of the whole college life Peter Parker. I love the issue for that stuff. It has that cheese moments, like MJ's dialogue here. She calls him Spidey-O and groovy speed and stuff like that. Or actually, Peter says that about how I have groovy soft toes. You got that kind of cheesiness, but come on, this is like 66, 67, 68. This stuff is expected in these old stories. The villain plot, I make the jokes, but it is kind of dumb. Kingpin's a mobster. The same guy who does all the shit that Daredevil had a master plan that was to brainwash every famous person in the city, pretty much. It's almost like Green Goblin's first master plan was taking Spider-Man to Hollywood and hitting him over the head with a rock. It's like the same kind of, cheese.
That is like the running gag of this podcast now, hitting people over the head with a rock.
And the sad thing is, that's technically stolen from another podcast, but I don't give a shit. It's a good gag because it's so true. Like I said, the Peter and Gwen moment where she makes out with him and he's in his dad's house. Peter's dialogue, like his exact quote is, "Gwen, your dad's here. Stop." Me and you were joking about this before the show go on the air. Guys, when they say Peter's every man, you can relate to him. This is what they mean. I have been in that position before. You're nervous as hell, and especially if she starts kissing you or anything, you want to be like, get off me. Because I don't want your dad to like pull out a gun out of nowhere and shoot me, whatever. So it's that kind of stuff's relatable. Except for I would say this issue is very relatable, except for when you get to the Kingpin shit. And I just love the scene in the police station. I just always love the interrogation where they're all like asking him like 1,000 questions about what Spider-Man's doing, what was going on, and is he still a menace and everything. And then the way Peter explains it away with the whole kind of half-truth, and he's almost like, in his head saying, well, I'm, technically lying because it's the Parker guilt, but, okay, that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. I just love this, this stuff. And so if I had Oh, excuse me. If I had to give this issue a thumbs up or thumbs down, I'd give it a thumbs up all day.
All right, I'll go into my thoughts on the issue here. I give it a thumbs up as well. I'll agree with James there. It's a fun, cheesy 1960s Spider-Man issue. I'm with James. The Lee Remedi era is my absolute favorite era of Spider-Man comics. Um, there's a lot of great stuff in here for me with Peter and Captain Stacy. I said it before and I'll say it again. Captain Stacy is one of my all-time favorite Spider-Man supporting characters, and so whenever he and Peter interact, especially in the way they do in this issue, with them talking about Spider-Man and Peter thinking, does he know more than he's letting on? I absolutely love that stuff. I think that stuff's gold. The plot with the Kingpin and brainwashing, stupid as hell, but that's why I love it. It's really, really fun to read, especially with Mary Jane at the club. It's just like, there is no part of this that is not suspicious, and really she should be thinking, hey, maybe I should ask a few questions here. Maybe I should do something about this. Nope, I'm just gonna go around dancing because that's what I do. I'm Mary Jane. I'm the party girl.
Yeah, let's not tiptoe around this. Kingpin's a mobster. He's in with the mafia in the Marvel Comics, pretty much. So you're in a nightclub. Shady guys are coming out of this room saying, I want you to use this camera. Don't change the film. Don't change the camera. Use the exact one. You hear us? And take photos of these people, including a cop, a commissioner, the mayor, all these things. If I'm Mary Jane, especially in New York City, and these Italian guys running a nightclub are telling me all this stuff, I'm freaking out on the inside. I'm sorry. I'm peeing my pants.
Yeah, so it's like, we can see that should have happened, but it's the 60s, and plus it's just like, you know what, I can believe that. I can let that go. It's kind of a nitpick for me. The fight at the end with Spider-Man and the mobsters and saving Mary Jane, I thought that was pretty good. I think I've mentioned this before on this podcast as well, but I love the Romita Sr. artwork. It's absolutely gorgeous. I love the style. A lot of people would describe it as a sense of romanticism in Spider-Man in terms of the visuals. I tend to agree with that. I think that it's a very nice look for Spider-Man. I think it's a very fitting look for not only the world, but for the characters.
I would say I don't use romanticize. I'd say realistic. Like, this almost looks like you could almost kind of visualize these as real people.
Yeah, I could see where you're coming from with that. I think that is a valid point to make, and yeah, I love the style. I love his Spider-Man. I love his Peter Parker. I love his Kingpin. I love his Captain Stacy. I love his MJ, his Gwen, all that stuff. So a lot of great work there. The only kind of complaint I could have with this issue is that it does move a little bit slowly. It has a bit of a slow pace to it, but it's not that terrible. It's still very readable and very enjoyable issue. So overall, I give it a thumbs up. I don't really have any complaints in terms of this issue. So now we will move on to issue number 60, part 2 of this story. Same creative team, only difference is Sammy Rosen does the lettering instead of Artie Simic this time. So we open with Captain Stacy being brainwashed and Spider-Man and the Kingpin fighting in the same room as this is happening. Spider-Man and the Kingpin are having a fairly sizable fight. They're both getting some good licks in. Spider-Man's having some trouble taking the guy down, but Kingpin is always having some trouble with Spider-Man as this is also happening. Spider-Man manages to hurl himself into some electrical cables and some electrical conduits that short out the brainwashing machine, and that allows Spider-Man to get away from the situation, but it also injures him in the process, giving him a sense of double vision. So that is kind of handicapping him throughout this issue. Meanwhile, Captain Stacy emerges after being brainwashed by the Kingpin there, and he reapproaches MJ and Gwen, and they just, they go off into the night. They sort of reacquaint themselves with their lives. So Spider-Man tries to get reacquainted. He tries to get over this double vision thing, but he's not having much luck. He's reaching out for flagpoles, but he sees two of them, and he reaches for the wrong one. So he goes falling, and he tries to grab onto the wall. He manages to get home, and he goes to bed, and he starts kind of doing what Peter Parker does. He reminisces on his life, and he thinks, for a while everything seemed to be going my way. Aunt May was recovering. Harry was friendly again, and Gwen, most of all, Gwen. I was beginning to realize how much she meant to me. With Spider-Man helpless, if anything should happen to Gwen. And then he realizes, this is a girl I love. I'm in love with Gwen Stacy, and I have to do something about this. and he says he can't sleep. He's got to see Gwen. He's got to learn more about her father somehow. And he sees, okay, the double vision is starting to clear up a little bit. Everything's blurry now. I'm still handicapped, but I have to go out and I have to do something. So he goes to see the Stacys at their house, and he goes and talks. He goes in to talk to the captain, and the captain is acting a bit differently. The friendliness, the warmth is all gone from his demeanor and his attitude. And Peter's saying, he's all cold. He's heartless now. I need to do something. And Captain Stacy actually snaps at him at one point, and Spider-Man says, there's no doubt about it. Something's happened to him. I've got to force the issue. Okay, maybe the police will be interested. Oh, no, you don't. And Captain Stacy actually picks up his cane and starts to swing at Peter. And Peter says, stay back, Mr. Stacy. You don't know what you're doing. You're not well. You need help. Medical help. Oh, no, I forgot my own strength, because Peter actually reached out to push him away. And Captain Stacy actually falls to the ground. And just at that moment, Gwen comes in, having heard the commotion. And Gwen thinks to herself, you tell me not to believe what I see with my own eyes? You struck my own father, an old man, the dearest, gentlest man who ever lived. No, Gwen, no. Then deny it. Let me hear you deny it, Peter. And Peter says to himself, there's nothing I can tell her. No way to explain. And so Peter leaves. Meanwhile, Gwen leaves Captain Stacy alone to try to heal, for him to allow him to recuperate. Captain Stacy reports into the Kingpin that Peter was suspicious of them, and so Kingpin actually orders a hit on him. And so what happens? A bunch of mobsters show up at Peter and Harry's apartment, but Peter's not there, but Harry is. And so Harry gets approached by the mobsters, and they wreck the apartment. Once Peter returns, Harry informs Peter of the situation, and Peter goes out as Spider-Man to investigate. He finds Captain Stacy and some mobsters at the police station, and they're digging through records. He sets up his automatic camera to take pictures, and Spider-Man intervenes on the situation, taking down the mobsters fairly easily. And he manages to get pictures of Captain Stacy and the mobsters illegally going through police files. And what does Peter do? He realizes he has no other choice but to turn those pictures into J. Jonah Jameson at the Daily Bugle. And so the issue ends with Gwen Stacy looking at a special edition of the Daily Bugle. Why? It's a picture of oh no, Dad committing a crime. And to make it worse, it was Peter who took the picture. Dun, dun, dun. End of the
Curse that Parker Luck.
Yeah, so James, we'll go to you first once again here. What are you thinking of Amazing Spider-Man number 60 here?
This is another really good issue that's cheesy at times. I mean, again, brainwashing the head of police, but I just really love this issue, and it's not really for the brainwasher things with Kingpin, because that's classic comic book cheese, especially when you get to the next issue. But the real life stuff kind of that goes on here, because like I said, I make the jokes in my first review, Story of My Life, and this is what I mean. This is a comic that's 50 years old, give or take. And here I am, a college student, and I can relate to Peter Parker here. And I'm sure there's moments John, too, can probably relate to him here. And, just to say, there was there's stuff in my personal life, but a few weeks ago, there was something, it's still kind of that question mark kind of thing going on with me and this one girl. I'm not going to name names, obviously. Keep this private. But that was me. I was in my bed and I'm thinking, oh God, how did I fuck this up? Now this girl probably won't ever want to talk to me again. Nothing really bad, but more kind of that kind of thing where you don't get a text message right away. Oh, are they mad at me? Kind of thing. And not in a really creepy way. Like I'm already saying I love her, like Peter, because that's not the case here. But you know what I mean? That whole kind of thing. Is I like this girl and did I screw it up? Crap, I'm an idiot. I'm a jerk. Whatever. You think of other things going on in my life. Yeah, I got a test I'm worrying about. I can really relate to Peter there.
James, have you ever pushed your girlfriend's father down?
No, and I was about to get to that. I'm talking about the whole, because I'm sure you can relate to it too, especially when you're with this girl. There's a lot of heartache, and you can kind of relate to Peter right there, where he's all like that way.
Yeah, not to go into too many details, but I think probably anyone on the planet can relate to that at some point. All of us have gone through something like that.
Like, I don't want to sound like a weirdo or a creep. I'm going to say, no, every guy has been that kind of like, kind of up at night because you're thinking about a girl you like, whether it being a crush or somebody who you maybe screwed it up with or whatever. So I love that, how Peter's there, man. There's a comment from, 50 years ago, and I can relate to it, and it's 2015. And that's the brilliancy of these early Spider-Man issues.
It's like the timeless factor of them adds to the story. 50 years later.
Cause, yeah, like I'm saying, like I'll say it again. This is a Peter Parker in the mid '60s. This is back when my parents were little kids. Not they were teenagers too. They were little kids. That shows how old ago this is. And I can relate to this. It's not like me reading like, a Batman issue from the 40s where it's very 1940s, you can't really hardly relate to it. This almost feels like just update the clothing and add a cell phone in Peter's hand. This is modern day.
Maybe get rid of some of the dialogue.
Well, yeah, that too. That's an obvious. Unless it's in an irony way, like you see somebody acting like something like that, you can say it's a joke, hey, groovy man, or whatever. But anyways, to go on the Captain Stacy thing, no, I have never pushed a girlfriend or her father. But to say about Peter here, you just imagine what's probably going on in his head. Because you got to remember, this is in Marvel timeline. This has to be weeks after what happened with Norman. You're meeting your girlfriend's father, second time you meet him, and he's acting cold and weird, and you bring up going to the cops, and he's ready to attack you. He had to be thinking in his head, oh, God, no, not again. Like, this is a Richard Norman almost. Like, what supervillain I don't know the secret identity is he going to reveal himself to be right now? So that part I really like. And I do kind of like the whole he doesn't know his own strength. Like, it's just the reflexes of Spider-Sense. Like, no, don't, and he pushes him. It's not like he meant to do it. It's just a reflex that he couldn't prevent, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And Gwen, of course, Parker Luck, Gwen comes in at the worst time when he shoves her father on the ground. Her old father, who has to walk with a cane. So Kurt said Parker Luck is classic here. I will gotta say though that one of the most cheesiest lines in comic history is Gwen when Peter comes. Actually, I'm here to talk to your father, Gwen. And then she's all like, I remember when guys used to come over to see this 18-year-old bombshell, but now I'm an 18-year-old has-been. That is a very I would more kind of relate that line to be coming out of Mary Jane's mouth in this era than Gwen. That one kind of caught me off guard a little bit. But anyways, you got that. This starts the whole kind of Gwen thing that even goes on past this arc where she's mad at Peter for this, and crying over him, stuff like that. I love that element, and again, just to add into that whole Parker Luck, he's like, okay, I gotta bring these photos in. I just gotta, And then of course Gwen sees the headline. Not only does she think that he attacked her father, but now she's made money off, in her eyes, probably framing her father for something he didn't do. That is Parker Luck done to a brilliance. I just got to say that. Like, this is great how they did handle that. Because now it's a double whammy. Not only does she think that he attacked her father, but now he made money off of it. If I was somebody reading this in the 60s, I had to see what I couldn't wait for the next month. I had to see how this story continued. And thumbs up.
All right. For my thoughts on this issue, again, I agree with James. I think it's a really, really fun issue. I think it's really well written. Once again, the artwork by Romita Sr. is very good, especially with the Kingpin fight at the beginning. The Kingpin fight is very solid. I like that both parties get a few good licks in. I like that Spider-Man is genuinely challenged by the Kingpin. Especially since this is only their second encounter. Spider-Man's not really too keen on his moves yet. He's not to that point yet where he can anticipate the Kingpin's moves. He's still kind of, he doesn't really know how to do it yet. So I did enjoy that fight. I thought that was very good. The scene of Peter, Gwen, and Captain Stacy where, Peter accidentally pushes the Captain over. Very good. I did enjoy that scene. I thought it was good drama, to be honest with you. I thought it was well done. I didn't really mind how it was handled. So that was enjoyable for me. The double vision stuff with Spider-Man being kind of handicapped in this issue, it's all right. Not really anything special. We've seen Spider-Man have to overcome health issues before, so not really anything original there. But it was fine. It didn't detract from the issue at all. And of course, the ending with Peter turning the turning the pictures into JJJ at the Bugle. That was very solid stuff. I thought that was pretty good. James, are you raising your hand here, like trying to say something?
Yeah,
Or
yeah. I'm raising my hand. Trust me, I'm not like hailing Hitler or anything. Or hailing Hydra. I'm actually. But anyways, well, I'm German, so I gotta classify that I'm not doing that. Anyways, I just gotta say though, just to go on to that one point, what was I gonna say? Oh, about Peter. He's having a concussion here, so any chances he sued the NFL after this?
I don't know.
That would be a topical joke of the week. Congratulations. Let's see what I do next week. Maybe it's a Trump joke. Maybe it's an Obama joke. Who knows? Tune in.
You know, I was kind of tempted to make a joke about brainwashing and certain political candidates here, but I wasn't going to. I decided to steer away from it.
Well, it's obviously for Palpatine you're talking about.
All right, so I give this issue a thumbs up as well. I thought it was very solid. So our final issue of the night is Amazing Spider-Man number 61. Same creative team as the previous issue. The issue begins with Spider-Man kind of brooding about how, he's had to do all the things he's had to do over the past few days with Captain Stacy, with Gwen, with the Bugle, and all of that. Gwen confronts her father about the article and the picture in the Daily Bugle, and Captain Stacy says, "I've got to leave. I have to go away. These are the orders. I must because he wants it that way. Please don't try to stop me." Gwen thinks to herself, "I dare not leave him alone. Not now." And so she says, "Whatever happens, I'll be with you, Dad. I'll look after you until you can remember what's happened to you." Peter thinks to himself, "I was a fool. I never should have left them, no matter how Gwen loathed me. What if the Kingpin tries to silence Stacy? For good. I've got to get back to them while there's still time." So Spider-Man jumps out the window. He heads over to the Stacy household and he finds a bunch of mobsters there, and he beats the crap out of them. And he actually tries to get some answers out of one of them, but he realizes it's no use. The Kingpin didn't take any chances. You've been brainwashed too. You're no good to me. So at the same moment, Harry and Mary Jane drive over to the Gloom Room A Go-Go, which is the nightclub that Mary Jane was working at and that the Brainwashers' headquarters was placed at. And they find that it's been randomly closed down. So while Mary Jane pontificates this, Harry says, "I've got to visit my dad now. Want me to drop you off anywhere? Let's try the Wailing Wall for starters." Okay, whatever that means. So meanwhile, at Osborn Industries, Norman Osborn is dealing with his employee Winkler. "The shipping department tells me you ordered expensive new electronic equipment without my say-so." "Yes, I'm afraid I did, Mr. Osborn." "Confound it, man! You worked here long enough to know the rules." And so Osborn yells at him for doing stuff without his permission, and it's revealed that the Winkler is actually working in secret for the Kingpin, and he's the one who provided the Kingpin with the brainwashing device. And so as this happens, the Kingpin's going over their plans and everything, and Harry walks in on his father in his office and says, I'm just not quite myself today. It started when I saw the name Green Goblin in the paper. I don't seem to be able to get him out of my mind now. I never did understand how you helped to destroy him, Dad. That's the trouble, son. I can't remember. So meanwhile, at Peter Parker's apartment, he's whipping up a gas mask to try to counter one of the Kingpin's attacks, which is the Kingpin has a little tie pin that sprays gas out of it that kind of incapacitates Spider-Man. So he's whipping up a gas mask to kind of counter that, and Spider-Man manages to track down the Kingpin and the Stacys to an old Osborn, or to the Osborn Industries complex, and manages to crash in and sort of he takes on the Kingpin hand to hand, and he actually manages to take the Kingpin down. But just as he does, he says, "You haven't won yet. Turn around. Look at Winkler." And it's just at that moment Norman Osborn walks into the lab after seeing that the Winkler's light was on, and he says, "I wonder what the Winkler was doing, working all these late hours." So it's at that moment that Norman Osborn walks into the lab, finds the Stacys, tied up there as they've been captured, and Norman actually takes the Winkler out before he can do anything, and the Winkler actually fires his gun into the brainwashing machine, and it explodes. The explosion takes out the Winkler, but it also kind of damages the structural integrity of an object that was hanging above the Stacys, and Spider-Man says, "No, I won't let this happen. I won't let these two go down like this." kind of ironic that these two both go down.
I will allow one of them to die on a bridge and another one to have rocks fall on him, but I will not let them get molten lava dropped on them.
Yeah, so Spider-Man managed to rescue both of the Stacys, and they all managed to get out relatively unscathed. Mr. Osborn's story manages to exonerate Captain Stacy, and they say, and Gwen says, if only I could thank Spider-Man. We owe him our lives. And the last panel of the book is, how unlucky can you be? She thinks Spidey's a hero, but Peter Parker's all washed up with her, and that I've got to live with. The classic Peter Parker guilt. So that's the end of the issue. James, we'll go for you. What are your thoughts on Amazing Spider-Man number 61, and what are your thoughts on this arc in general? How did you enjoy it?
This is another good issue. Three ones that are really well done. Not to sound like a broken record, there is the cheese moments, but this is Stanley Romita's 60s Spider-Man. That's what makes it good. It's almost like classic Power Rangers. The cheese is what makes it good. A comment on the art, since it's more the overall, I can talk about it. I love the Romita art. Just the way, look at the Gwen and Mary Jane in these Patriot issues. It's artwork, and I'm looking at black and white essentials of them, and they are stunning. They are drop dead beautiful in all three of these issues. The guys, even Harry, they don't look bad themselves. They look like really handsome guys, and the women are extremely beautiful. I just love the artwork. It's just really great artwork. I love the Norman stuff, how it's, the classic Green Goblin thing of he's starting to remember and the voice is starting to come back. Norman. He's starting to faintly hear it in the back of his head.
Let me out, Norman.
His heart, Osborn. First, we attack his heart. This classic, but this is exactly it, where you look at both of those movies and the cartoons and everything, where they go to that classic Green Goblin split personality, Jekyll and Hyde, kind of thing. This is where Jekyll and Hyde, this is where it comes from. And you can see, it's right here. Norman looking at the newspaper, seeing something about the Green Goblin or something about his company or Spider-Man, and then all of a sudden he starts hearing the voice in his head. This is how it's done in all those things. And it comes from this issue in this era. And I just love that, how he's like thinking, and Harry's even like, Dad, I don't even understand how you could help Spider-Man fight the Green Goblin. And he's like, well, that's the point. I don't know, and that's why I want to know. Why when I hear the Green Goblin, does it feel scary and familiar at the same time? I want to know what the hell happened to me. It had to be very, suspenseful for a reader, because you probably thought after, the reveal that, okay, what happened, and now he has amnesia. They probably thought that was going to be it or the Green Goblin. He was going to have amnesia and never remember her forever. And here it is 10 or so issues later, and he's already starting to remember. It had to be, if you were a kid, and oh shit. And Norman wants to remember, because he wants to know, how come I can't remember all this time in my life? And so he's going to keep on constantly try to remember. And then eventually he's going to. And when it hits the fan big time. Which is one of the reasons why I am kind of upset that in the current books he doesn't know. Because here Norman's trying to figure out, why can't I remember? He has to be doing that with Peter right now. And he should have figured it out and put it together again. Well, at the mind block. But that's a story for another day. I love the final fight with the Kingpin, the molten thing, like you brought up, Like I said, this is classic Silver Age cheese. It's a mobster whose final plan is to dump molten lava on two people.
Yeah, it's not the best plot they've ever had, and I think James actually just froze there. So I'll go into my thoughts on Amazing Spider-Man number 61 here as we move along. I enjoyed this issue as well. I thought it was very good. I thought it was a very, very solid issue, and a nice cap to this arc. I did like the Norman Osborn moments. I thought it was nice to see him again. Norman Osborn's easily, if not my favorite, probably one of my favorite Spider-Man villains. He's up there with Dr. Octopus and Venom. I like all those guys. I do enjoy seeing Norman again, and I did like him actually taking kind of a heroic role in this issue. I thought that was kind of nice. It wasn't really set up at all. It maybe would have been nice to see a bit of setup with Norman. That didn't really happen, but I can let that go. It doesn't really bother me that much. It was good to see Spidey make a gas mask to fight the Kingpin. I always like to see Spider-Man make those kind of gadgets, use his intelligence to really to really take on his bad guys in a way that, not many heroes like him can. So I enjoyed seeing that. I enjoyed seeing his intuition there. It was a solid ending fight for me. I enjoyed the final fight with the Kingpin, with the Winkler. I thought all that stuff was great. Once again, like James said, I enjoyed the Ramita Senior artwork. I thought that was really well done. I've said that multiple times in this review. I enjoy Ramita Senior's artwork. It's my favorite. I'd say he's probably my favorite Spider-Man artist. I enjoy his style a lot. My only negative point for this issue is probably the eye roll worthy last panel. I did not enjoy the last panel at all. It's just like so many of these comics end with Peter Parker just walking away crying, and it's just like, dear gosh, just stop. Just stop.
And bringing up the Parker luck.
Yeah, so it's just like, we need to stop with this, please, Stan. Just stop. But other than that, thumbs up for me. Really solid issue. Thumbs up for this arc in general. Very solid in my opinion. Absolutely love it. James, we didn't really get to finish your review, so any other thoughts and any other thumb ratings for not only Amazing Spider-Man number 61, but the arc in general?
Where did I leave off on?
To be honest, I don't remember.
Oh, yeah, I'll just repeat like the last few things to cover to make sure I do. Okay, did you hear my thing about the Kingpin and the molten lava?
Yes, you did. That was what you left off on. Yes.
Okay. So, yeah, like I said, that's classic Silver Age cheese right there. It's hilarious. It's really kind of bad and cheesy, but in a good way. So bad it's good. Spider-Man saves the day. I like how there's that. You can say almost getting a parallel to the movies. Him crouching over the wall to look at her as everything's going on, and then of course, curse that Parker luck. I'm so unlucky, boo-hoo. I mean, here we are, 2015, and that still is how they end most issues. Curse that Parker luck. You know what I mean? Of course, then you got Gwen talking about how Mr. Osborn helped out, and they're all saying all right. And then as we know, later on the night, she went to go see him and probably banged his brains out because, again, story of my life and fuck my life.
Oh, gosh, James, do you need a hug?
There are people who literally say that right here is where they can see the twins. I don't know how, and that's why I made the joke.
All right.
But yeah, thumbs up for this issue, and of course, because it's 3 thumbs up in a row, obviously the whole arc in general is going to get a thumbs up from me.
All right, so pretty positive ratings from both of us tonight. We both enjoyed the story very much, and if you like the story, go in the comments on YouTube. Tell us why you like the story. If you didn't like the story, go in the comments on YouTube. Maybe tell us why you didn't like the story. We always encourage open discussion. We encourage all viewpoints here. All we ask is that you keep it civil. No ad hominem insults. Try to keep it civil. Try to keep it respectful. That's all we ask. So that's going to do it for this review. That's also going to do it for this episode of the podcast. We don't really have anything else to talk about this week. So, James, any shout-outs or final words for the listeners or viewers before we sign off?
Shout out to everybody at home. Happy belated Thanksgiving. Hope you didn't kill anybody when you were out Black Friday shopping, trying to get that DVD player or Blu-ray. Yeah, I can't really think of anything else that's really to give a shout out to this week, so that's about it. Oh, maybe a shout out to Gwen Stacy because, dear God, these parts of the issues I'm okay with, but when you get to like the next 2 arcs when she still is mad at Peter, there's some very Silver Age Gwen moments, let's just say. So shout out to before shit hits the fan with her in this arc.
All right. My shout-outs this week, Marvel, Stan Lee, Steve Ditko, John Romita Sr., all you people, thank you for Spider-Man, thank you for the comics we reviewed this week. Other shout-out, Chris Evans, Robert Downey Jr., Anthony Mackie, Sebastian Stan, Kevin Feige, all you people. Thank you for Captain America Civil War trailer. Joe and Anthony Russo, the directors. Thank you for that trailer. That was a good trailer. Have I mentioned that? It was a good trailer. Other shout-out this week, 5 episodes in. I'm loving Supergirl. I'm really digging it. I love the show. It's really enjoyable, really fun. It's just an hour of just fun, stupid superhero stuff with a lot of good messages put in there. So, shout out to Supergirl. Very enjoyable show. Very noble effort. Absolutely love the themes and the messages they're trying to get along with that show. So, good shout out to Supergirl. Other stuff this week, shout out to Thanksgiving. Hopefully you all had a good holiday. Shout out to our listeners and viewers who tuned in live for this episode. Thank you for all those who attended as our live audience. And yeah, I don't really have any other shout outs this week. So
One last shout out. Shout out to my mom and dad. I'm sorry for Zombie Thomas.
all right, we'll see you guys later. Thanks for tuning in. See you next week.